Okay, all right. Just so that you guys know, again, I'm going to go through the review and then also relate it to these are like these problems on your test, okay? For your worksheet, too, I'm going to add in a couple problems, okay? Because I changed it, I tweaked it after I gave you guys yours. I tweaked and added a couple extra ones that would match more like the test, okay? So I'm going to do a couple extras that are not on your sheet, but they are on like 5th and 6th hours because I tweaked it after you guys, okay? But I want to make sure you guys can see them. All right, so here goes. So on your review, questions 1 through 3 is like question 1 on the test. I'll change it to black because that green's really... Okay? So just so that you know, that's how we're going to do this. Now, with the change of base formula, when you have log base 2, 10, remember, your calculator does not understand base 2. So when you type it into your calculator, you're going to type the log of 10 divided by log of 2. Now I want you to notice that when I did that, I closed out my parentheses. If you close out the parentheses at the proper time, it will give you the right answer. If you don't close out the parentheses at the right time, it'll be wrong. Okay, so make sure that you close out the parentheses after each one. So I typed the log of 10 divided by the log of 2, and on my calculator it came out as approximately 3.3219 is what I got. Number 2 has the log base 7, 9. So again, if I type the log of, which one comes first, the 7 or the 9?
9.
Good. Divided by log of 7. I get approximately...
So when you put it in your calculator, you have parentheses around the number?
Yep. Exactly how I wrote it, Trent, that's how you should type it.
Okay.
Okay? And I got 1.1292 if I round to 4 decimal places. Now, it doesn't tell you, I don't ask you for what decimal place to round it to. So as long as you do, don't do 1. Do at least 3, 4 decimal places. That would be perfectly fine. You guys okay so far with these? How you feel about 1, 2? Number 3 has the log of 23, 42. Again, what would I type?
42.
Log of 42 divided by log of 23. Log of 42 divided by log of 23. Close it, enter. And I got approximately 1.1921. Okay, how do you guys feel? Feel okay about those? Now, to be honest, number 1, I think should be a pretty decent problem. Like that's exactly what you're going to have to do for number 1. Okay, on your test. All right, everybody good with that? Okay, now, the next ones are going to be different for you. I did not give these to you I forgot about them until later, and I wanted to make sure that everybody else had them. So I'm going to give you a different problem right now. It's not on your review sheet, but it is on the people that got it after you. In the directions, I told you that log base 7.4 is 0.712, and I don't want that. Log base 712 was approximately 1.277. So I gave you those two things, and then it says find or evaluate log base 716. Okay, if you remember, we did problems like this where we had to then come up with or create, how can I use a 4 and a 12, 4 and or 12, to make 16? If I take 4 to the second, now remember, I can't add those two pieces together because adding is the same as multiplying. So, but I can raise them to powers. So for me personally, log base 7 16 is really 4 squared. Then what did we do with the exponents for those laws that we had? Put it in the front. So it ends up being 2 times the log of base 7 4. What number is the log base 7 4? What number should go in those parentheses? Which is what? It says it in the directions. 0.712. So I multiply those together. So 2 times 0.712, and I get 1.424. So that's my final answer. Okay, another one like that. I have log base 7, 144, plus log base 7, 112. Now, there's a couple different approaches for you, but let's think of this a couple different ways. Let's look at this maybe the fast way. Adding, when you condense it, is the same as doing what to the two pieces? Multiplying. Good. So, since I see that there's an adding there, I can simply multiply those two pieces together. That would go a lot faster than it would to do the other way. If I take 144 times 1/12, does anybody know what you get? 12. Now, Austin, in the directions for this one, if I go back a slide, is there a log base 7 12? Yeah, what is it? 1.277?
Yeah.
That's your final answer. Like, look how easy that was if you just use the laws to combine them or condense them. Now, what I had some people doing yesterday was doing this, and I'll put it in red. They were taking the 144 and making it as 12 squared, like Carson said on the last one. Okay? And then what they did was they moved this up. And if you remember, we had a problem similar to that in the homework where we made this 12 to the -1 like that. Where we made the fraction make it be a negative exponent. And we had a couple different options. You could either multiply them and then combine like terms, or you could move the exponents to the front. It's your choice. But me personally, that first way, whole heck of a lot faster. These two problems that we just did were not on your review sheets, but they were on 5th and 6th hours. Okay? And I wanted to make sure you guys saw how to do them. Is everybody okay with those? You will have 2 of those on your test tomorrow. So 2 and 3 are going to be like these where they give you those numbers. And you have to try to figure out how to create them. Okay? Then, I got the log of 8, 3xy. And you're asked to either expand or condense. On your review, questions 5 through 10 are exactly like the questions 4 through 7 on your test, where it will say expand or condense the logarithmic expression. So you're doing the same things. Now, if it's all compacted into one logarithm, that's one that I want you to expand. Meaning I want you to make it bigger. Is there any multiplying or dividing going on?
Yeah.
What?
3.
Okay, now remember, what I reminded you to say when you were doing this, maybe say it like this. Log base 8, 3 times x times y. So how many times did I say times? Twice. So how many adding symbols am I going to have? 2. So what would I have? Log base 8, 3. Log base 8x. Plus or minus? Okay. Plus log base 8 y. That is expanded form. And that's it.
What numbers were these on the test?
4 through 7. So on this type of question, if it's only got one log like that, the directions for you would be expand it. Make it wider. So number 6, I'll put in blue on the same slide. We have log 10 x to the third y. Is that an expand or a condense?
Expand.
That's another expansion. Now remember, when you say it, I said it as log 10 x to the third y, but maybe you should write it as log 10 times x to the third times y. So if you say it out that way, then you know that every time you see it times, you should have a what instead? Right. So how would I split this?
Log 10.
Log 10
Log x.
plus log x to the
Third.
plus log y. Now, excellent work so far, but we're not done. Okay? Because remember, after the expansion goes, you got to move the exponents down. Now, there is another trick to this one. What's the base when there isn't a number written there? 10. And I don't know if you guys recall this, but right here in purple, I'm going to put a box around that one. That one's a little special. If I have a 10 here and I have a 10 in the big spot in blue, they cancel each other. If you have a 10 for the base and a 10 up in the big number, they cancel and they leave you with whatever exponent was there. What's the exponent on the big 10? What's the number there when there isn't a number there? No, not 10. Not 0. 1. It's like there's understood to be a 1 there if there isn't anything written. Okay? So if the base number is 10 and the big number is 10, they cancel each other out. And you're left with whatever number's in the exponent spot. So this is really a 1 in the front there. Now, what do I do with the exponents in the middle one? Put it to the front. So plus what? 3 log x plus log y. And you have successfully expanded it. How do you guys feel so far about the expansions? In that problem, we got 2 out of the 3 laws, if you think about it. We have a law for the adding, subtraction, multiplication is the same as adding. And there's also an exponent law that happened. The exponent to the front. Okay? Oop, kind of got cut off there. Is that a expand or condense? Expand. Why was it an expansion? Okay. So, how do I get rid of division? Good. Now, I had many people ask me this question yesterday, and not so much in here, but in other sections. How do I do it when it's ln? Ln and log are the same. Because ln, remember, means natural log. So all the rules still apply for these. Okay? Now, is there anything else I have to do besides the division? Huh? Okay, put this 5 to the front of the ln there. So I have a minus 5, the ln of x. I like it. Anything else? Okay, Trent's asking a question. Good one. Would you do anything to the other 2? Would you split them? Yeah. Because that says 3 times y. Right? So what's times the same as? Mm-hmm. Now, what happens is that most people end up messing that up. They don't split those, when in reality, they should be split. Okay? So, for that particular thing, that's my final answer. Number 8. Is this an expand or a condense? Why? There's addition. And there's more than one log. So then I know that it's a condensed one. So that means the first step that I need to do is move all exponents back up top. If there's a number in front of the log, move it back up top. So this should be log 7, 4 to the third, plus log base 7, 6. So the exponent went back upstairs. Now, how do I get it even further? Okay, wouldn't add them, because what's adding the same as? Multiplying. So I have to multiply these two pieces together. So in order to get my answer, log base 7, so remember, I'm dropping the logs off. I need to know what 4 to the third times 6 is. So in a calculator, 4 to the third times 6. 384. And that's simplified or condensed. Number 9. My 9. I know it's a different one than yours. Log base 212 minus 2 log base 2 x. Again, all exponents need to go where?
Back up.
Exponents need to go back up. So there's one number. Is there a number in front of the first one? No. So right now I have log 212 minus log 2x squared. How do I condense it?
Log squared x squared log is 2x squared over 12.
Close, Trent. Very, very close. Okay, now I want to show you something that some people I've been noticing have been doing, and I want to make sure that we don't do this. When you're trying to condense them, you're trying to get it to be one log, not two of them. And what I was having is I'm seeing some people write it like this, divided by log base 2x squared. That's not dropping any logs off at all. That's not right, okay? So this part right here, you would not want to write it like that. You're trying to get it to only be one log, not multiple logs. So when you do this one, you drop one of the logs off, and then it's the left one divided by the right one. So Trent, you were backwards. So what's the left number? 12 divided by x squared. Now it's good. Okay? That's that answer. Does that make sense? Okay, and the last one you should have. 2 the ln of x plus 5 the ln of 2 minus the natural log of 8. Okay, where do I start? Move the exponents back up. So this goes back up. This goes back up. Is there anything in the front of the last one? No. So if I put them back up, I have the ln of x squared plus the ln of 2 to the 5th minus the ln of 8. Everybody okay so far? Now, I'm going to take it in 2 steps, even though some of you are probably capable of doing it in 1. But I'm going to go left to right. What's multiplication? I'll give you the answer. What's adding the same as? Right? So I would have the ln of what? X squared times 2 to the 5th. But I'm going to change that around. You told me it was x squared times 2 to the 5th, which that's perfectly fine. But what is 2 to the 5th? Not 10. That's 2 times 5. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 2 is 16. Times 2 is 32. Now, instead of me writing it the way I have it, I'm going to write it as, instead of 2 to the 5th, I'm going to write it as 32. But do I want to write it as x squared 32 or 32x squared? Okay, so the ln of 32x squared minus the ln of 8. How do I get rid of minus? I divide. So I have the ln of 32x squared over 8. And the only thing that you can do from here is, if I can reduce 32 over 8, we need to reduce it. Does 32 over 8 reduce?
Yes.
To what? 4. So it's really the ln of 4x squared. So those questions that are on your review that say expand or condense on your test is like questions 4 through 7. Okay? So questions 4 through 7 looks like those on your test. Okay, or on your test, they're like questions 4 through 7. Okay? Then, the next part says solve the equation. On your review, I think I put 3 of them on there, right? I put 3 of those that say solve the equation, check for extraneous solutions. On your test, there are 4 of them. Okay? So 8, 9, 10, and 11 are like these next ones that we have on your test. So, on this first one, can I ever write an 8 to equal a 5? Like 8 to the somethings equals, like, I can't rewrite them, can I? No. If I can, that's a lot easier. But since 5 and 8 I can't write as the same numbers, does anybody remember what I have to do to both sides? I have to log it. Right. I have to put a log into both sides. And the reason why I do that is because of those laws. Now I can put the x from the exponent where? I can bring it to the front. So I can bring this to the front. So I end up with x log of 5 equals the log of 8. And how do I solve for x? Divide by log of 5. And if you remember the change of base formula that we did at the beginning, it's kind of like those. I type in my calculator, log of 8, close it, divided by log of 5, close it. So again, how I'm going to type that is log 8, close it, divided by log 5, close it. And I got approximately 1.292 is what I got. Okay. The next one. If I have log base 3, 2x minus 5 equals 2. Now, the first thing that you always want to do is you want to get it so that it's only one log in the problem, which there is only one log in the problem, so that's great. Now, in order to solve for x, what you do is that you rewrite it as an exponential, which means I start with the base, which is how big? And I rewrite it as an exponential like we did in the first half of the chapter. So it's 3 to the what? Second equals 2x minus 5. And from here, I'm going to solve for x. So what's 3 squared? 9 equals 2x minus 5. Then what? Add 5. What's 9 plus 5? 14 equals 2x. Divide by 2. And x equals 7. Now, recall that when you're doing this, checking for extraneous solutions means you got to plug it back in. And if it makes a negative, like you're logging a negative, what do you do with the number? If I plug it back in the original problem and it gives me log of a negative number, what do I do with it? Don't use it. So if I put it back into the original problem right here for x, what's 2 times 7? 14 minus 5? I should be okay. If it was the log of negative 9 or log base 3 negative 9, then I have to throw it away. And then there would be no solution. Okay? But as it turns out, 7's a good one. Now, on the last problem, I kind of alluded to this one a little bit. There's too many logs in here. So I need to get rid of one log. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to condense. How do I condense adding? Yes. So I multiply this times this. What is x times x plus 2? Now, a lot of people yesterday were trying to do this problem, and what they were doing is that they were actually rewriting the base like you should, but they were using 10. And the deal is 10 works for log, not natural log. How do I get rid of ln? E it. I got to e both sides. So the e and the ln cancel each other out, leaving you x squared plus 2x equals e to the third. Now, e to the third is a number. It's not a very user-friendly number, but it is a number. So if you set it equal to 0, because remember, these are sometimes quadratics, I end up with x squared plus 2x minus e to the third equals 0. And going to factor that is kind of going to be a nightmare. Like, it's not good. Because e to the third, or negative e to the third, is not very user-friendly. It's a decimal that continues to go on forever and never stops and never repeats. So if I can't factor it, what else can I use to get the answers? How else can I solve quadratics if I can't use factoring? Okay, calculator. What else? We had one like this in your homework, by the way. It starts with a Q. Quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You might want to have that on your note card just to remind you, in case you need it. I don't know if you will, but in case. The problem, remember, was x squared plus 2x minus, oops, I forgot to put a minus, minus e to the third equals 0. So what number is in the b spot? So more specifically, just the 2. Don't need the x in there. What number is in the a slot? 1. And what's in the c slot? Negative e to the third. Again, as I mentioned, it's not very user-friendly, but this is where we're going to use a calculator now to type it all in. Okay? We are going to use a calculator now to type this in. I type parentheses, negative 2 plus square root 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative e raised to the third. Does anybody remember how you get the e in the calculator? Second over the division button is one of them, or second over the ln button is the other. And then you close out this parentheses, and then you close out another parentheses. So you should have 2 big parentheses there. Some of you that have newer calculators, when you get out of the square root, you're going to have to hit the right arrow to get out of it. Then divided by 2. And you should come up with a decimal. Anybody got the decimal? Parentheses, negative 2 plus square root 2 squared minus 4, parentheses 1, close it, open, negative second ln, third, close it, go out, close it, divided by 2, badunk. I got approximately 3.592 is what I got. Okay? And seeing a couple of you that typed it in, you are shaking your head yes. Then don't forget with the quadratic formula, you also have to do minus. So right here in red that I'm circling, I have to change that to a negative. So if I go back and type it all in but put a negative there, or just I get negative 5.592. And that's an issue. Why is that one a problem? If I put that back in the original problem, I'd be logging or natural logging a negative. Can you log or natural log a negative number? No. So this one gets thrown away, and you're only left with the 1. Okay? Now, just because, what if I had 5 to the 3x minus 7 equals 2? How would you solve a problem like that? Because we also had those on one of the days where there were exponentials. What do? How do you solve this? Add 7. So I get 5 to the 3x equals 9. And then what?
Divide by 5.
Nope, not divide by 5. Log it. If you look at the first one that we did in this section, is that now like the first ones? Because can 5 and 9 have the same base ever? No. So if that's the case, then you need to log both sides. If I log both sides, what do I do with the exponent? This moves to the front. So 3x log of 5 equals the log of 9. How do I solve for x? If I divide out the log of 5, I end up with 3x equals the log of 9 divided by the log of 5. And then what? Nope, not quite. There's one more step. And you got to divide it all by 3 because there's a 3 in front of the x. Okay? So on my calculator, I could type the log of 9, close it, divided by the log of 5, close it, divided by 3. I can type it all in at one shot, and I get a number. I get 0.4551 if I round to 4 decimal places. If you go to 3, it'd be 0.455. Okay. Again, you have 4 of those on your test tomorrow. 8, 9, 10, and 11 say solve the equation. That's where I think the majority of what the problems are going to be a little bit more complicated for you are. I don't know though. And the last question on your test is going to be like this. X, Y, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 5, 32, 48, 58, 65. Write the exponential model. How do you write the exponential model for a table of data? How do I put it in my graphing calculator? What are the buttons I need to push? Stat is the first one. Then you go into edit. And then what? You put all the X's into list 1. And all the Y's guys into list 2. Then you push stat again. How do I get to the calc menu? You go over to the right, 1 space, to calc menu. And then where? You go down to EXP reg, which is exponential regression. And depending on your calculator, if you've got an older one, it should start working right then and then give you the answer. If you have a newer one, you have to go down to where it says calculate and then hit enter. And you should get an answer. Anybody know what the answer is for this one?
7.4.
Y equals, say it again, 7
7.4
times.
times 1.3 to the x.
Now, unlike all the other ones that you guys had, some of you that had the r squared and the r value, it didn't come out as a perfect number 1, did they? If you had that. If you saw that. Mine, I know, I remember yesterday doing it, it didn't come out as a perfect one. That's okay, as long as it's close. Now, what you do not want to do is you do not want to take the 7.4 times the 1.3. Leave it as 2 separate pieces. I did have somebody ask me yesterday if it's okay if they wrote it like this. 7.4 multiplied by 1.3 in parentheses. That is the same thing, and that is okay. Whichever way you want to write it with the timesing, that's your choice. And that would have been that question on your review. On your test, there is one of them. Number 12 on your test is like this. Do you want me to do the last question on your review? Or are you guys good with it? Now again, on your test tomorrow, there are 12 questions. Number 1 says, use the change of base formula to evaluate. 2 and 3 say evaluate the logarithm using these two known things. 4, 5, 6, and 7 say expand or condense. Now let's use our reasoning skills. If I say that 4, 5, 6, and 7, so that's 4 questions, and they say expand or condense, and there's 4 questions, what do you think? Probably 2 of each. Be a good assumption. Then 8, 9, 10, and 11 say solve the equation. And 12 is write the exponential model. And that's it. Okay? So again, tonight, make sure you use that the review to study for your thing tomorrow. Also, make your note card or half sheet, or quarter sheet, or note card, whatever you prefer. Okay? Also, as a reminder, the grade check is on Thursday. So if there's anything that I need to put in, I need it by tomorrow. Okay?